The blue ring on the Alexa device glowed softly in the corner of the kitchen, its AI assistant activated by a single word that would change everything: help. But the help never came. Natalie Chen's body convulsed against the cold marble floor, her 7-month pregnant belly pressed awkwardly beneath her as the seizure ripped through her nervous system. Through the haze of misfiring neurons and involuntary muscle contractions, she heard her husband's voice, not panicked, not concerned, but laughing. Actually laughing. "Oh my God, Marcus, is she seriously doing this right now?" The woman's voice was shrill with annoyance rather than alarm. Sienna Ward, 26 years old, all legs and highlighted hair, stood in Natalie's kitchen wearing Natalie's silk robe. "This is so pathetic. She's obviously faking it for attention." Marcus Chen, tech millionaire, founder of Chen Analytics, Natalie's husband of 4 years, didn't move to help his seizing wife. Instead, he sipped his coffee and checked his Rolex. "Alexa, what time is my meeting with the Sanderson investors?" "Your meeting is at 10 a.m., the device responded cheerfully, still recording everything. Natalie's hand reached out instinctively, fingers grasping at air, at Marcus's Italian leather shoes just inches from her face. The metallic taste of blood filled her mouth where she'd bitten her tongue. Her baby, their baby, kicked frantically inside her, responding to her body's distress. "Marcus," she managed to gasp between convulsions. "Baby, hospital, Jesus Christ, she's drooling on the floor." Sienna's disgust was palpable. "This is exactly what I'm talking about, babe. She's manipulative. She probably read some article about how to fake a seizure to make you feel guilty about leaving her." Marcus finally looked down at his wife, his expression one of mild irritation, like she was a stain on his expensive rug. "Natalie, if you're quite finished with your little performance, I have things to do today. Sienna and I are looking at that penthouse in Tribeca, and I'd rather not be late because you're having another one of your episodes." Another episode. As if her epilepsy, diagnosed at 16, carefully managed for years with medication, was a personality flaw rather than a medical condition. The seizure lasted 93 seconds. Natalie knew because she'd learned to count them, to track them, to survive them alone because Marcus had stopped caring about her medical emergencies 2 years into their marriage. When her body finally stopped convulsing, she lay on the kitchen floor, exhausted and trembling, her maternity dress soaked with sweat. Above her, Marcus and Sienna stood side by side, united in their contempt. "Clean yourself up," Marcus said flatly. "You look pathetic." Sienna leaned into him, her manicured hands sliding possessively across his chest. "Baby, can we just go? I don't want to spend our morning watching her wallow. The realtor is meeting us at 10:30. Natalie's vision was still blurry, her thoughts scattered, but those words penetrated through the fog. "Our morning. Baby." The casual intimacy in Sienna's tone made everything crystal clear. "How long?" Natalie whispered, pushing herself slowly to her hands and knees. Every movement sent waves of nausea through her. "How long have you two been, does it matter?" Marcus cut her off. "Honestly, Natalie, you can't be surprised. You've let yourself go completely. Look at you." She looked up at him from the floor, this man she'd married at 24, believing in fairy tales and happily ever afters. Marcus Chen, the genius entrepreneur who'd built a data analytics company worth $47 million. The man who'd promised to love her in sickness and in health. He was looking at her like she was garbage. "I'm pregnant with your child," she said, her voice stronger now despite her physical weakness. "I just had a seizure, and you're talking about looking at apartments with your mistress?" "Ex-wife, technically." Marcus pulled a folded document from his jacket pocket and dropped it on the floor beside her. "I had my attorney draw these up last week. I'm filing for divorce. You can keep the house in Westchester, I've already bought Sienna and me a place in the city, but everything else is protected under the prenup you signed." The papers landed in a small puddle of her own saliva. Natalie stared at them, her mind struggling to process what was happening. "The prenup specifically addresses pregnancy," Marcus continued, his tone businesslike, as if discussing a contract negotiation. "You'll receive monthly support for the child once it's born, But you have no claim to my company, my assets, or my future earnings. My lawyers assure me it's airtight. Sienna was scrolling through her phone, bored with the conversation. Marcus, the Tesla's charged. Can we please go? One more thing. Marcus crouched down, bringing his face close to Natalie's. She could smell his expensive cologne, the same scent she used to love. I want you out of this house by the end of the month. Sienna deserves better than knowing I'm still paying for my ex-wife's lifestyle. End of the month? Natalie's voice cracked. That's 10 days, Marcus. I'm 7 months pregnant. Then I suggest you start packing. He stood up, adjusting his Tom Ford suit jacket. Sienna was already heading toward the garage, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors Natalie had chosen when they'd renovated 3 years ago. Marcus, please. Natalie hauled herself up using the kitchen island, her legs shaking. I need my medication. My neurologist. The baby will be fine. You're being dramatic as usual. Marcus picked up his keys. Oh, and Natalie? I'm canceling the joint credit cards this afternoon. You'll need to figure out your own finances. Consider it motivation to find a job. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. After they left, after the garage door closed and the Tesla's electric hum faded down the driveway, Natalie stood alone in the kitchen of the 6,000-square-foot house in Westchester County. The house with its gourmet kitchen and heated floors and the nursery she'd been decorating in soft yellows and grays. The house that was apparently all she'd be left with. She caught sight of herself in the reflection of the stainless steel refrigerator. Marcus was right about one thing, she looked wrecked. Her black hair was tangled and damp with sweat. Her face was pale except for the bruise forming on her cheek where she'd hit the floor. Her maternity dress was rumpled and stained. But it was her eyes that shocked her. They looked hollow. Defeated. When had she become this person? When had she started accepting Marcus's cruelty as normal? When had she stopped fighting back? The Alexa device in the corner caught her attention, its blue ring now dormant. An idea formed through the fog of her post-seizure exhaustion. Alexa, she said clearly, play back the last recording. Playing recording from 9:47 a.m., the device responded. Natalie's own voice came through the speaker, weak and desperate, help. Then Marcus's laugh. Sienna's contemptuous words. The entire conversation played back with crystal clarity, every cruel word, every casual dismissal of her medical emergency, every piece of evidence that Marcus Chen had abandoned his seizing, pregnant wife while planning his future with another woman. Alexa, save that recording and send it to my email. Recording saved and sent to Natalie. Chen at email.com. Natalie pulled out her phone with trembling hands. The screen showed 17 missed calls from this morning alone, all from a number she didn't recognize. She'd been ignoring them for days, assuming it was spam. But now, standing in her kitchen, divorce papers on the floor and her husband's cruelty echoing from a speaker, she decided to call back. The phone rang twice before a crisp, professional voice answered. Good morning, Peterson and Associates, attorneys at law. How may I direct your call? This is Natalie Chen, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. You've been trying to reach me. Oh, Mrs. Chen. Yes, please hold for Mr. Peterson. He's been very anxious to speak with you. The hold music was Mozart. Natalie used the 90 seconds to sink into one of the kitchen chairs, her hand resting protectively on her belly. The baby was moving normally now, its kicks reassuring. Mrs. Chen? A man's voice, warm and slightly urgent. This is Richard Peterson. Thank you so much for returning my calls. I've been trying to reach you regarding your grandmother's estate. My grandmother? Natalie frowned. I don't have a grandmother. Both my grandmothers died when I was a child. I'm referring to Lin Mei Chen, formerly Lin Mei Zhang. She passed away 6 weeks ago in Hong Kong. You are listed as her sole heir. The name meant nothing to Natalie. Her father had died when she was 2, and her mother had raised her alone, never mentioning extended family in China. Her mother had passed 3 years ago, and Natalie had always believed she had no family left. "I think you have the wrong person," she said. "I don't know anyone named Lin Mei Chen." "Mrs. Chen, I understand this must be confusing. Lin Mei was your father's mother. She was estranged from your family for many years due to complicated circumstances. But she never stopped watching over you. In fact, she's been quite invested in your life." "Watching over me? What does that mean?" Peterson's voice took on a careful tone. "Mrs. Chen, I think it would be best if we met in person to discuss the details of the estate. Are you available to come to our Manhattan office this afternoon? This is a matter of some urgency and considerable importance." "I just had a seizure," Natalie said bluntly. "My husband just served me with divorce papers while I was on the floor. I'm 7 months pregnant, and I'm not sure I can handle any more surprises today." The silence on the other end lasted several heartbeats. When Peterson spoke again, his voice was tight with controlled anger. "Mrs. Chen, I'm very sorry to hear that. But I think you'll want to hear what I have to tell you. Your grandmother's estate is valued at approximately $2.4 billion. Natalie's phone slipped from her hand, clattering onto the marble countertop. "Mrs. Chen? Are you there?" She picked up the phone with numb fingers. "That's not possible." "I assure you it's very possible. Lin Mei Chen was one of the most successful real estate developers in Hong Kong and mainland China. She built an empire over 6 decades, and she left every cent of it to you. But there are conditions, time-sensitive conditions, which is why I've been trying so urgently to reach you." "What kind of conditions?" "The kind that require you to come to my office today. Mrs. Chen, I understand you're dealing with a difficult situation, but your grandmother anticipated exactly this kind of difficulty. She left very specific instructions for protecting you and your child. Can you be here by 2 p.m.? Natalie looked around her kitchen at the life she'd built with Marcus, the life that was crumbling around her. She thought about the divorce papers on the floor, about Marcus's laugh, about Sienna wearing her robe and calling her pathetic. She thought about the Alexa recording saved in her email. And she thought about a grandmother she'd never known, watching over her from halfway around the world, building a fortune to protect a granddaughter she'd never met. "I'll be there," Natalie said. "Text me the address." After hanging up, she walked slowly to the nursery she'd been preparing for months. The walls were painted in soft yellow, the crib was assembled, tiny clothes hung in the closet. On the dresser sat a framed ultrasound photo from her 20-week appointment, the appointment Marcus had missed because of a business meeting that was probably a date with Sienna. Natalie picked up the ultrasound photo, studying the tiny profile of her daughter. Because it was a girl. She'd found out at her last appointment, the one Marcus also missed. "It's just you and me now, little one," she whispered. "But your mama just found out something very interesting. And your daddy is about to learn what happens when you abandon a woman who has nothing left to lose." She pulled out her phone again and opened her email, finding the Alexa recording. 93 seconds of audio that captured Marcus Chen at his absolute worst. Then she called the one person who'd been trying to warn her about Marcus for years. "Natalie?" Her best friend Jessica's voice was thick with concern. "Oh my God, I've been so worried. You haven't returned my calls in weeks." "I know. I'm sorry. Marcus didn't want me talking to you." That manipulative piece of, Jessica caught herself. "Are you okay? You sound weird. I need to ask you something. You work in tech PR, right? You know people in the media?" "Yeah, why? What's going on?" Natalie smiled, and it felt foreign on her face, like a weapon she'd forgotten how to wield. "Because I'm about to blow up my husband's entire life, and I want to make sure everyone is watching when I do it." In the corner of the room, the Alexa device's blue ring glowed softly, recording everything. And this time, Natalie Chen was the one in control. The offices of Peterson and Associates occupied the entire 42nd floor of a glass tower in Midtown Manhattan. Natalie stood in the marble lobby, feeling distinctly out of place in her wrinkled maternity dress and flats. Around her, women in power suits and men in bespoke tailoring moved with purpose, their designer briefcases and confident strides announcing their belonging in this world of high-stakes law and corporate warfare. She caught her reflection in the polished elevator doors. The bruise on her cheek had darkened to purple, and no amount of concealer could hide the exhaustion in her eyes. She looked exactly like what she was, a pregnant woman who'd been abandoned on her kitchen floor that morning. "Mrs. Chen?" A young woman in an impeccable navy suit approached with a warm smile. "I'm Sarah Lim, Mr. Peterson's associate. He's expecting you. Please, follow me." They rode the elevator in silence, Sarah stealing concerned glances at Natalie's bruised face but maintaining professional discretion. When the doors opened, Natalie stepped into a reception area that screamed old money and corporate power. Original artwork lined the walls, and through floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan sprawled in all directions. "Can I get you anything? Water? Tea?" Sarah asked, guiding her down a corridor. "Water would be good, thank you." Natalie's mouth was dry from her medication, the anti-seizure drug she'd managed to take despite her shaking hands. Richard Peterson's office was exactly what Natalie expected: mahogany furniture, leather-bound books, and a view that probably cost more per square foot than most people's homes. Peterson himself was in his early 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, with the kind of presence that came from decades of winning impossible cases. He stood immediately when she entered, his expression shifting from professional courtesy to genuine concern as he took in her appearance. "Mrs. Chen, please sit down." He gestured to a chair that was probably worth more than her car. "Sarah mentioned you looked unwell. Should I call a doctor?" "I'm fine." Natalie lowered herself carefully into the chair, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. "I had a seizure this morning, but I'm okay now. I just want to understand what's happening." Peterson exchanged a meaningful look with Sarah, who'd brought in a crystal glass of water and several folders. "Mrs. Chen, before we discuss your grandmother's estate, I need to ask, are you in a safe situation? That bruise on your face is from hitting the floor during my seizure while my husband watched and laughed." Natalie's voice was flat. "He served me with divorce papers immediately after." "Is that relevant to why I'm here?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Peterson's jaw tightened, and Sarah's eyes widened with barely concealed fury. "It's extremely relevant," Peterson said quietly. "Your grandmother anticipated exactly this scenario. She had very specific concerns about your husband." "She knew about Marcus? How?" "I never even knew she existed." Peterson opened one of the folders, revealing photographs that made Natalie's heart stop. There she was at her college graduation, Marcus by her side. At her wedding 4 years ago. Walking into her first prenatal appointment. Pictures spanning years, documenting a life she thought was private. "Your grandmother employed a very discreet investigation firm to monitor your well-being," Peterson explained. "After your mother's death 3 years ago, Lynn May became increasingly concerned about your marriage. Her investigators documented significant evidence of your husband's infidelity, financial impropriety, and what she termed systematic emotional abuse." Natalie stared at the photographs, her mind reeling. A grandmother she'd never met had been watching over her, documenting Marcus's betrayal, building a case she didn't even know she needed. Why didn't she contact me? Why just watch from a distance? Peterson's expression softened. Your grandmother made a decision many years ago that she deeply regretted. She disapproved of your father's choice to marry your mother, an American woman from a working-class background. Lynn May was traditional, elitist, and convinced she knew what was best for her son. She cut him off completely when he refused to end the relationship. So she abandoned my father because he married someone she thought wasn't good enough. Natalie heard the bitterness in her own voice. Yes. And she spent the next 35 years regretting that choice. Your father died in that car accident when you were 2, and by the time Lynn May tried to reconcile, your mother wanted nothing to do with her. She blamed Lin May for forcing your father to work those extra hours to support his family without his mother's help. She believed exhaustion caused the accident. Natalie remembered her mother's few mentions of her father's family. They wanted nothing to do with us. We were beneath them. She'd never questioned it, never pushed for details. Her mother's pain had been clear enough. Your grandmother respected your mother's wishes and stayed away, Peterson continued. But she never stopped watching. She built her fortune with the explicit intention of protecting you and any children you might have. When she learned you were pregnant and your husband was having an affair, she accelerated her estate planning. Sarah opened another folder, this one containing legal documents. Mrs. Chen, your grandmother's estate is valued at $2.4 billion, as Mr. Peterson mentioned. But it's not just cash. It's a real estate empire spanning Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, London, and New York. Commercial properties, residential developments, hotels. Your grandmother was a genius at identifying emerging markets. Natalie tried to process the numbers, but they felt abstract, impossible. And she left all of this to me? Every cent, Peterson confirmed. But there are conditions. First, you must formally accept the inheritance within 30 days of being notified. Second, you must attend a board meeting in Hong Kong within 60 days to assume control of Chen Holdings, your grandmother's primary holding company. And third, he paused, his voice taking on a harder edge, you must ensure that no portion of this inheritance benefits Marcus Chen in any way. That won't be a problem, Natalie said quietly. Your grandmother was very specific about this. The estate includes provisions for aggressive legal defense against any attempt by your husband to claim marital assets. She also left a separate fund, $50 million, specifically designated for removing obstacles to Mrs. Chen's happiness and security. Her words, not mine. Natalie felt something cold and purposeful settle in her chest. She left me $50 million to destroy my husband? She left you $50 million to protect yourself and your child by any legal means necessary. If that includes exposing his infidelity, financial crimes, or other improprieties, Peterson's smile was sharp, then yes, that's exactly what she intended. Sarah pulled out a tablet and brought up a presentation. Mrs. Chen, we've been conducting our own investigation into your husband's business practices. Chen Analytics has some serious vulnerabilities. The screen showed financial records, emails, text messages. Natalie recognized Marcus's handwriting, his email signature, but the content made her stomach turn. Your husband has been systematically inflating user numbers to attract investors, Sarah explained, scrolling through documents. He's reporting 2.3 million active users on his analytics platform. The actual number is closer to 890,000. He's also been using client funds for personal expenses, including financing his relationship with Miss Ward. That's fraud, Natalie whispered. Multiple counts of fraud, actually. Securities fraud, wire fraud, investor fraud. If this information reached the SEC or his current investors, Chen Analytics would collapse overnight. Your husband would likely face criminal charges. Natalie thought about Marcus's confidence that morning, his casual cruelty, his certainty that the prenup protected everything he'd built. He had no idea his entire empire was built on lies that could be exposed with a few phone calls. There's more, Peterson said. We discover that the prenuptial agreement you signed has a significant flaw. Your husband's attorney failed to disclose several assets that existed at the time of your marriage, including a property in the Cayman Islands and an offshore account containing approximately $8 million. Failure to disclose assets makes the entire prenup voidable under New York law. So the prenup is worthless? Completely worthless. Which means in your divorce, you're entitled to 50% of all marital assets, including Chen Analytics itself. Peterson's smile was predatory. Your husband believes he's protected. He's about to discover he's completely exposed. Natalie sat back in her chair, her mind racing. This morning she'd been a discarded wife with nothing. Now she was a billionaire with the power to destroy the man who'd abandoned her on their kitchen floor. The baby kicked hard against her ribs, as if responding to the surge of adrenaline flooding Natalie's system. "What do you need from me?" she asked. Peterson and Sarah exchanged approving glances. "First, we need you to sign the acceptance documents for your grandmother's estate. Second, we need you to authorize us to represent you in your divorce proceedings. And third," Peterson leaned forward, "we need you to tell us exactly what kind of justice you want." "I want him to know what he lost," Natalie said, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. "I want Marcus to understand that he threw away everything for a woman who only wanted his money. I want him to see me powerful and successful and completely beyond his reach. And I want our daughter to grow up knowing her mother fought back." "It's a girl?" Sarah's professional demeanor cracked into genuine warmth. "Yes. I found out at my last appointment. Marcus doesn't know, he didn't bother to come. Then we'll make sure your daughter inherits a legacy her mother built, not one her father destroyed," Peterson said firmly. He pushed a pen and documents across the desk. "Sign here, Mrs. Chen. And welcome to the beginning of your new life." As Natalie signed her name, Natalie Chen, sole heir to a $2.4 billion fortune, she felt something shift inside her. The defeated woman who'd lain on her kitchen floor was gone. In her place was someone harder, sharper, ready to fight. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus: "Canceled the credit cards. Hope you have cash for groceries. Moving company comes Friday for my things." Natalie showed the text to Peterson and Sarah. "Charming," Sarah muttered. "May I?" At Natalie's nod, Sarah took the phone and typed a response: "Thank you for the update. My attorney will be in touch regarding asset division and support obligations. Best of luck with your real estate search." "That's perfect," Natalie said. "Professional and cold. Exactly what he deserves." "Speaking of attorneys being in touch," Peterson said, "I'd like to send Marcus's lawyer a preliminary letter tomorrow morning. Just a polite notification that you've retained counsel and have some concerns about the prenuptial agreement. Nothing aggressive yet, just enough to make him nervous. Do it." Natalie stood up, feeling stronger than she had in months. "And Mr. Peterson? I have something else that might be useful." She pulled out her phone and played the Alexa recording. 93 seconds of Marcus laughing while his pregnant wife seized on the floor, Sienna calling her pathetic, Marcus dismissing her medical emergency to look at penthouses with his mistress. The silence in the office when it finished was absolute. "Mrs. Chen," Peterson said quietly, his voice tight with controlled fury, "may I have a copy of that recording?" "I want everyone to hear it," Natalie said. "His investors, his clients, his parents, everyone who thinks Marcus Chen is this brilliant, successful entrepreneur. I want them to know what kind of man he really is." Sarah was already typing on her tablet. "I know a journalist at the Wall Street Journal who would be very interested in a story about a tech CEO's character issues, especially if it ties to questions about his company's financial practices. How soon can we make this happen?" Natalie asked. "Give us 1 week," Peterson replied. 1 week to build an airtight case, to position all our pieces perfectly. Then we'll show Marcus Chen what happens when someone underestimates a woman who has nothing left to lose and everything to gain." As Natalie left Peterson and Associates' offices, she noticed Sarah following her to the elevator. "Mrs. Chen, I hope this isn't overstepping," Sarah said quietly, "but I want you to know, what your husband did this morning is unforgivable. You deserve so much better." "Thank you," Natalie said. "That means more than you know. Also, I took the liberty of making an appointment for you with Dr. Elizabeth Morrison. She's the best high-risk OB in Manhattan, and she specializes in managing epilepsy during pregnancy. Your appointment is tomorrow at 10 a.m., Natalie felt tears prick her eyes. "You didn't have to do that. Your grandmother left instructions that your medical care was to be prioritized above everything else. Dr. Morrison is already familiar with your case, we sent her your medical records this afternoon. She's expecting you." As Natalie rode the elevator down, she caught sight of herself in the mirrored walls. She still looked exhausted, still had that bruise on her cheek, but something in her eyes had changed. She looked dangerous. Her phone rang. Jessica. Tell me you're okay, Jessica said immediately. You said you were going to blow up Marcus's life, and then you went radio silent for 4 hours. I've been losing my mind. I'm better than okay, Natalie said, stepping out into the Manhattan afternoon. Jess, I need to tell you something completely insane. I'm listening. I just inherited $4 billion from a grandmother I never knew existed. The silence on the other end lasted 5 full seconds. I'm sorry, what? $4 billion. With a B, real estate empire. Hong Kong. My grandmother left me everything. Holy shit, Natalie. Holy shit. And that prenup Marcus is so confident about? Completely invalid. I'm entitled to half of everything he has. Jessica's laugh was sharp and delighted. Oh my God. He has no idea, does he? Not a clue. He thinks he's ditching his boring, broke wife for a younger model. He has no idea he just made the biggest mistake of his life. What are you going to do? Natalie watched the Manhattan traffic flow past, yellow cabs and black cars and delivery trucks all moving with urban purpose. Somewhere in this city, Marcus and Sienna were probably looking at penthouses, planning their future, laughing about how easily they'd discarded her. I'm going to make sure Marcus Chen regrets every cruel word, every dismissive gesture, every moment he made me feel small and worthless. I'm going to take everything he loves and show him exactly what he lost when he laughed at me on that kitchen floor. I love this energy, Jessica said. What do you need from me? PR contacts. Media strategy. You said you know people in tech journalism? I know everyone in tech journalism. What's the angle? Fraudulent user numbers, misappropriated funds, and a CEO who abandons his seizing pregnant wife while planning his next wedding. Plus audio evidence of the whole thing. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Natalie, that's nuclear. You're talking about destroying him completely. He destroyed me first. I'm just returning the favor. Then let's burn his whole world down. I'm sending you a list of contacts right now. And Natalie? Yeah? Welcome back. I've missed the woman you used to be before Marcus convinced you to make yourself smaller. After hanging up, Natalie found herself standing in front of a boutique maternity store. The window displayed elegant dresses, professional separates, clothes designed for women who were pregnant and powerful. She walked in. Good afternoon. The saleswoman was in her 40s, stylish and warm. How can I help you today? I need a complete wardrobe, Natalie said. Professional clothes, casual clothes, everything. I'm starting a new job, and I need to look the part. What kind of work will you be doing? Natalie thought about the Chen Holdings board meeting in Hong Kong, about assuming control of a $4 billion empire, about becoming the woman her grandmother had been. I'm taking over the family business, she said. And I need to look like I own the place. 2 hours later, Natalie emerged with 8 shopping bags and a new sense of purpose. The saleswoman had been a miracle worker, finding clothes that made her pregnancy look powerful rather than vulnerable. Structured jackets, elegant dresses, even a stunning black maternity suit that made her look ready to command a boardroom. Her phone buzzed with an email from Peterson and Associates. The subject line read, Chen Holdings Board Materials, Confidential. Natalie sat in a nearby coffee shop, ordered a decaf latte, and opened the attachment. It was a presentation about her grandmother's empire, complete with property portfolios, financial statements, and organizational charts showing hundreds of employees across 5 continents. This was hers now. All of it. A photo of Lin Mei Chen was included in the materials, a formal portrait of an elderly woman with sharp eyes and an uncompromising expression. She wore a traditional cheongsam and held herself with absolute authority. The caption read, Lin Mei Chen, 1938 to 2024. Founded Chen Holdings in 1962 with a single apartment building in Hong Kong. Built empire valued at $2.4 billion through strategic acquisitions and visionary development projects. Natalie studied her grandmother's face, searching for family resemblance. She found it in the shape of the eyes, the set of the jaw, the expression that suggested this was a woman who'd fought for everything she had and won. "I wish I'd known you," Natalie whispered to the photograph. "I wish I could thank you for this." Her phone rang again. This time, an unknown number with a 914 area code, Westchester. She answered cautiously. "Hello? Mrs. Chen? This is Detective Sarah Reeves with the Westchester County Police Department. I'm calling regarding an incident report filed at your residence this morning." Natalie's heart rate spiked. "I didn't file any report." "No, ma'am. Your neighbor, Mrs. Patricia Holloway, called 911 around 10 a.m. She reported hearing what she described as concerning sounds from your property and seeing your husband leave with an unknown woman shortly after. When officers arrived, they found evidence suggesting a medical emergency had occurred." "Mrs. Chen, are you all right?" Patricia Holloway, the retired nurse who lived next door and had expressed concern about Marcus's behavior several times. Apparently, she'd been paying closer attention than Natalie realized. "I had a seizure this morning," Natalie said carefully. "I have epilepsy. It's managed with medication, but stress can trigger episodes." "I see. And your husband was present during this medical emergency?" "Yes." "Did he render aid or call for medical assistance?" Natalie thought about the Alexa recording, about Marcus's laugh, about how carefully she needed to play this. "Detective, I'd prefer to discuss this in person. I have documentation that might be relevant to your investigation." "What kind of documentation?" "Audio recording of the entire incident. My Alexa device captured everything." The silence on Detective Reeves' end was significant. "Mrs. Chen, I'm going to send an officer to take your formal statement. Would you be comfortable coming to the station tomorrow, or would you prefer we come to you?" "I'll come to you." "What time?" 10 a.m. "And Mrs. Chen, please bring that audio recording." After hanging up, Natalie opened her email and forwarded the Alexa recording to her own attorney, to Jessica, into a new folder labeled Evidence. Every piece of Marcus's cruelty would be documented, preserved, ready to be deployed when the moment was right. A text from Marcus appeared. "Sienna and I put an offer on the Tribeca penthouse. 2 million. Closing in 30 days. Thought you'd want to know where your child support checks will be going." Smiling face with smiling eyes. The emoji was a particular kind of cruelty, casual, dismissive, designed to twist the knife. Natalie stared at it for a long moment. Then she typed, "Congratulations. I hope you've budgeted appropriately for your legal fees." His response came immediately, "What legal fees?" "The prenup is airtight, Natalie. My lawyers made sure of it. We'll see." She could practically feel his irritation through the phone. "Good. Let him wonder. Let him worry. Let him spend the next week increasingly paranoid about what she might be planning. Because in 7 days, Marcus Chen's carefully constructed world was going to explode. And Natalie would be there to watch every moment of his destruction." The Westchester County Police Station smelled like burnt coffee and institutional cleaning products. Natalie sat in a gray interview room the next morning, her hands wrapped around a paper cup of water, waiting for Detective Reeves. She dressed carefully in one of her new outfits, a charcoal maternity dress with a structured blazer that made her look professional and composed. The bruise on her cheek had faded to yellow-green, but it was still visible enough to tell a story. Detective Sarah Reeves entered carrying a tablet and a notepad. She was in her mid-40s, with kind eyes and the weathered look of someone who'd seen too much human cruelty to be surprised by anything. "Mrs. Chen, thank you for coming in." Reeves sat down across from her. "Before we begin, I want to make sure you understand that you're not under investigation. This is a welfare check that escalated based on your neighbor's concerns and the information you provided yesterday." "I understand." "Good. Now, I need you to walk me through what happened yesterday morning." Start from the beginning. Natalie took a breath and described the seizure, Marcus's reaction, Sienna's contempt, the divorce papers dropped beside her on the floor. She kept her voice steady, factual, letting the details speak for themselves. Reeves took notes, her expression growing increasingly grim. And during this medical emergency, your husband made no attempt to call 911 or render aid? No. He finished his coffee and discussed real estate appointments with his girlfriend. The same girlfriend who was wearing your robe in your kitchen? Yes. Reeves set down her pen. Mrs. Chen, I'm going to be blunt with you. What your husband did yesterday constitutes criminal neglect at minimum, potentially reckless endangerment. You were having a medical emergency while 7 months pregnant, and he not only failed to help but actively mocked you. If you want to press charges, you have grounds. Natalie had thought about this all night, weighing the satisfaction of criminal charges against the strategic value of holding this information in reserve. Peterson had advised her to wait, to let Marcus believe he was safe before deploying their nuclear options. Not right now, she said. But I want everything documented. The recording, photographs of my injuries, medical records from my neurologist. I want a complete file in case I need it later. Smart. Reeves nodded approvingly. Let me hear this recording. Natalie pulled out her phone and played the Alexa file. Reeves listened with an expression that shifted from professional detachment to barely concealed fury. When Marcus's laugh echoed through the small room, Reeves' jaw clenched visibly. That son of a bitch, she muttered when it finished. Sorry, Mrs. Chen, but that's one of the most callous things I've heard in 20 years of police work. He's always been good at hiding who he really is, Natalie said quietly. Charming in public, cruel in private. I spent 4 years thinking I was the problem. Reeves leaned forward. Mrs. Chen, I've worked a lot of domestic cases. What you're describing is a classic pattern of emotional abuse. The isolation, the constant criticism, the undermining of your confidence. Has your husband ever been physically violent? No. Marcus is too smart for that. He knows emotional scars don't leave evidence. This recording is evidence. And combined with your neighbor's witness statement and your medical records, it paints a very clear picture. Reeves pulled out a card. This is the number for a domestic violence counselor. I know you said there was no physical abuse, but emotional abuse is just as real and just as damaging. Natalie took the card, knowing she'd never call. She didn't need counseling about what Marcus had done to her, she needed revenge. One more question, Reeves said. Your neighbor mentioned seeing your husband load several boxes into his car yesterday afternoon. Was he removing property from your shared residence? Probably his clothes and personal items. He's moving in with Sienna. Did you give him permission to enter the house after he served you with divorce papers? Natalie blinked. I didn't think about it. It's his house too, isn't it? Not once divorce proceedings begin, especially if there's evidence of abandonment and potential domestic abuse. Technically, he removed property from what's now a contested marital asset without your consent. Reeves smiled slightly. Just something your divorce attorney might want to know about. After leaving the police station, Natalie drove to her appointment with Dr. Elizabeth Morrison. The medical building was in a wealthy part of Manhattan, all glass and steel and the kind of quiet luxury that suggested serious money changed hands here. Dr. Morrison's office was nothing like the cramped, fluorescent-lit practice where Natalie had been seeing her previous OB. This was spacious and serene, with comfortable chairs and original artwork and a reception staff that actually smiled. Mrs. Chen? A nurse appeared almost immediately. Dr. Morrison is ready for you. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison was in her early 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun and the confident air of someone who'd delivered 1,000 babies and saved just as many lives. She stood when Natalie entered, extending a hand. Mrs. Chen, please sit down. I've reviewed your medical records, and I have some concerns I'd like to discuss. My epilepsy? Natalie lowered herself into the chair, her back aching from the drive. Your epilepsy, yes, but also the stress you've been under. Your previous doctor noted declining health over the past 6 months, weight loss, elevated blood pressure, increased seizure frequency. And then I read the incident report from yesterday morning. Dr. Morrison's expression was serious. Mrs. Chen, you had a grand mal seizure while 7 months pregnant, and your husband's response was to laugh at you? He thinks I faked them for attention. That's not medically possible. Grand mal seizures involve loss of consciousness and full body convulsions. You can't fake that. Dr. Morrison pulled up Natalie's chart on her computer. According to your records, you've had 4 seizures in the past 3 months. That's a significant increase from your baseline. What's changed? My husband started having an affair. I found out about it around the same time the seizures increased. Stress is a major trigger for epilepsy, especially during pregnancy. Your body is already under enormous strain. Adding emotional trauma creates a perfect storm for increased seizure activity. Dr. Morrison closed the laptop. Mrs. Chen, I'm going to be very direct with you. If you continue living in a high-stress environment, you're putting both yourself and your baby at serious risk. I'm not living with him anymore. He moved out yesterday. Good. That's an excellent first step. But I want to see you weekly for the rest of your pregnancy. I want to monitor your blood pressure, adjust your medications if needed, and make sure this baby stays put until she's ready. Natalie felt tears prick her eyes at the casual kindness in Dr. Morrison's voice. You know it's a girl? It's in your chart. Have you thought about names? Lynn, Natalie said without hesitation. After my grandmother. Lynn Elizabeth Chen. Dr. Morrison smiled. That's beautiful. Now, let's make sure Lynn Elizabeth stays safe and healthy for the next 2 months, shall we? The examination revealed what Dr. Morrison called concerning but manageable issues: elevated blood pressure, some protein in Natalie's urine suggesting early signs of preeclampsia, and a baby who was measuring slightly small for gestational age. Nothing catastrophic, Dr. Morrison assured her, but this is exactly why I want weekly monitoring. Preeclampsia can escalate quickly, especially with your medical history. I'm putting you on modified bed rest, no heavy lifting, no excessive stress, plenty of fluids. I have to travel to Hong Kong in 6 weeks for business. Dr. Morrison raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Chen, I strongly advise against international travel in your 3rd trimester, especially with your medical complications. It's non-negotiable. I'm assuming control of my late grandmother's company. If I don't attend this board meeting, I lose everything. Everything meaning? $2.4 billion. The silence that followed was profound. Dr. Morrison stared at her for a long moment, then laughed, a real, genuine laugh that transformed her serious face. Well then. I suppose we'll have to make sure you're healthy enough to travel. Let me consult with a colleague who specializes in high-risk international pregnancies. We'll create a medical plan that keeps both you and Lynn safe while you claim your empire. As Natalie left the medical building, she felt something unfamiliar: hope. For the first time in years, she had people on her side, people who believed her, protected her, wanted her to succeed. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Lunch? I have news about our mutual friend's business practices. They met at a small Italian restaurant in Soho, tucked away from the main streets where tech industry people might recognize them. Jessica was already seated, her laptop open, wearing the expression of someone who'd discovered treasure. You're going to love this, Jessica said, barely waiting for Natalie to sit down before launching in. I've been digging into Chen Analytics public filings, and Marcus is even more screwed than we thought. She turned her laptop around. The screen showed a series of investor presentations, each claiming higher user numbers than the last. March 2023, 1. 2 million active users. June 2023, 1. 8 million. September 2023, 2. 3 million. Jessica tapped each figure. That's a growth rate of nearly 100% in 6 months. For a B2B analytics platform. In a saturated market. It's literally impossible. How do you know it's impossible? Because I called 3 of his supposed clients and asked about their experience with Chen Analytics. 2 had never heard of the company. The third said they tried a free trial and decided not to subscribe. Jessica's smile was vicious. Marcus has been fabricating client lists and inflating user numbers to attract investors. And it worked. He just closed a $15 million Series B funding round last month. Natalie felt cold certainty settling in her chest. That's securities fraud. That's multiple counts of securities fraud. And it gets better. I found the pitch deck he used for that funding round. Want to guess what his projected revenue is for this year? How much? $40 million. But his actual revenue based on his tax filings? Jessica pulled up another document. $7 million. He's off by a factor of 6. How did you get his tax filings? I didn't. But your very thorough attorney did, and Sarah Lim was kind enough to share relevant information with me for PR strategy purposes. Jessica closed her laptop. Natalie, when this comes out, Marcus doesn't just lose his company. He goes to prison. The waiter appeared with menus, and they ordered quickly, Jessica getting a Caesar salad, Natalie opting for pasta that Dr. Morrison had assured her was safe for pregnancy. There's something else, Jessica said once they were alone again. I've been monitoring Sienna's social media. She's been posting a lot about her new relationship and her successful entrepreneur boyfriend. She tagged a luxury furniture store yesterday with the caption, "Decorating our dream penthouse." Let me guess, Marcus is paying for everything? Marcus is paying for everything using company funds disguised as executive housing expenses. I found the receipts. $45,000 at Restoration Hardware. $30,000 at a designer boutique. $12,000 at Tiffany's. Jessica's expression was delighted. He's literally stealing from his investors to fund his affair. Natalie thought about the $3.2 million penthouse offer, about Marcus's confidence that he was building a new life with a younger, more attractive woman. He had no idea that his entire future was a house of cards built on fraud and misappropriated funds. When do we release this information? Natalie asked. That depends on what kind of destruction you're going for. We could leak it slowly, a detail here, a question there, let the tech press start investigating. Or we could go nuclear, dump everything at once and watch his world implode in real time. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Natalie's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Chen, this is Patricia Holloway, your neighbor. I hope you don't mind, I got your number from the police report. I wanted to check on you and the baby. Are you all right? She showed the message to Jessica. That's the neighbor who called 911. Jessica asked. Retired nurse. She's always been kind, but Marcus didn't like me talking to her. He said she was nosy. Translation, she saw through his bullshit and he didn't like it. Jessica took a sip of her water. You should text her back. You're going to need allies in Westchester when this all goes public. Natalie typed, thank you so much for calling the police yesterday, Mrs. Holloway. The baby and I are both fine. I'm filing for divorce and have retained excellent legal counsel. Your kindness means more than you know. The response came immediately, good for you, dear. I've seen how that man treats you. You deserve so much better. If you need anything, meals, company, someone to drive you to appointments, please don't hesitate to ask. See? Jessica said, reading over Natalie's shoulder. Allies. People who've been watching Marcus be a piece of shit and just waiting for permission to help you. They finished lunch discussing strategy, timelines, and the specific ways they could deploy the information Jessica had gathered. By the time Natalie headed back to Westchester, she had a comprehensive plan that would systematically dismantle every lie Marcus had built his success on. The house felt different when she arrived home. Empty. Marcus had taken his clothes, his electronics, even some of the furniture from rooms Natalie had spent months decorating. The master bedroom looked ransacked, closet doors hanging open, dresser drawers pulled out. But it was the nursery that broke her heart. Marcus had been in there. The ultrasound photo that had been on the dresser was gone. So was the first outfit Natalie had bought, a tiny yellow onesie with ducks on it. He'd taken them out of spite, knowing exactly how much they meant to her. Natalie stood in the middle of the half-finished nursery, her hand on her belly, and felt white-hot rage flood through her system. Her phone rang. Marcus. She answered with cold precision. What do you want? I'm at the house. Where are you? Natalie looked around the empty bedroom, confused. No, you're not. I'm at the house. I'm in the driveway, Natalie. My car is here. Your car is here. Unless you've developed the ability to be in two places at once, his tone was mocking. Then she heard it, the garage door opening downstairs. Her blood ran cold. She'd changed the locks yesterday afternoon on Peterson's advice. Marcus shouldn't be able to get in. Unless, I still have my garage door opener, Marcus said, his voice now coming from both the phone and somewhere downstairs. And apparently you were stupid enough to only change the house locks, not the garage codes. Natalie hung up and called 911, her hands shaking. 911, what's your emergency? My estranged husband just entered my home without permission. I'm 7 months pregnant and I have a protection order. She didn't have a protection order yet, but desperation made her lie. Ma'am, are you in immediate danger? I don't know. He's downstairs. I'm in the nursery on the second floor. Stay on the line. Officers are en route. Is there a room you can lock yourself in? The master bathroom. Natalie moved quickly, hearing Marcus's footsteps on the stairs. She locked the bathroom door just as he reached the bedroom. Natalie, don't be dramatic. I just need to get some things I forgot. His voice was casual, but she could hear the anger underneath. The police are on their way, she said through the door. You need to leave. The police? Marcus laughed. For what? This is still my house, Natalie. Just because you're throwing a tantrum about the divorce doesn't mean you can keep me out of my own property. You served me with divorce papers and moved out. You don't live here anymore. That's not how this works. The house is marital property until the divorce is finalized. I have every right to access it. Natalie heard him moving around the bedroom, opening drawers, the closet door creaking. Then his footsteps moved toward the nursery. Did you take the ultrasound photo? She called out. And the baby's first outfit? Silence. Then, I thought I should have some pictures of my daughter. Since you'll probably try to keep her from me once she's born. You didn't even ask what we're having. You missed every appointment. Because I was building a future for her. Marcus's voice rose. While you were playing housewife, I was creating generational wealth. Someone had to be the adult. Natalie almost laughed at the irony. Marcus thought $47 million was generational wealth. He had no idea she could buy his entire company with the interest on her inheritance. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Shit, Marcus muttered. You actually called the cops. Unbelievable. Leave, Marcus. Right now. I'm going. But Natalie? You're making this divorce so much harder than it needs to be. My attorney is going to crucify you for this. His footsteps retreated down the stairs. The garage door opened and closed. By the time the police arrived, Marcus was gone. But he'd left something behind, accidentally or intentionally, Natalie couldn't tell. On the nursery dresser, where the ultrasound photo had been, Marcus had left a manila folder. Inside were documents from Chen Analytics, investor agreements, financial projections, emails discussing user growth metrics. Natalie photographed every page with her phone and immediately forwarded them to Peterson and Sarah. Then she texted Jessica, Marcus just gave us everything we need to destroy him. And he doesn't even know it. That night, Natalie stood in her bedroom window watching the lights of Westchester County twinkle in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Marcus and Sienna were probably celebrating their penthouse offer, planning their future, convinced they'd successfully escaped Natalie's life. They had no idea the trap was already closing. Her grandmother's words from Peterson's files echoed in her mind, "The Morrison women don't break. We wait, we watch, and we win." Natalie placed her hand on her belly, feeling Lynn kick against her palm. "Your daddy made a mistake, little one," she whispered. "He thought your mama was weak. He thought he could throw us away like garbage. But he forgot something important. Your great-grandmother built an empire from nothing. And your mama inherited more than just her money. She inherited her fight." Tomorrow, Peterson would file the motion to invalidate the prenup. In 3 days, Jessica would leak the first questions about Chen Analytics user numbers to a tech journalist. In 5 days, the SEC would receive an anonymous tip about suspicious financial practices. And in 7 days, Marcus Chen would wake up to find his entire world on fire. But tonight, Natalie Chen, billionaire heiress, soon-to-be single mother, and the granddaughter of one of Asia's most powerful businesswomen, allowed herself to rest. The war was coming. And she was ready. The Wall Street Journal article dropped on a Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m., timed perfectly for maximum impact during the East Coast business day. Chen Analytics under scrutiny, questions raised about user growth claims. The headline was relatively mild, but the content was devastating. Jessica's journalist contact, a woman named Miranda Chase who specialized in tech industry investigations, had done exactly what they'd hoped, asked polite but pointed questions that Marcus couldn't adequately answer. Chen Analytics, the data analytics platform that recently closed a $15 million Series B funding round, has reported user growth that industry experts describe as statistically improbable. The company claims 2.3 million active users as of Q4 2023, representing 92% growth in just 6 months. However, multiple sources familiar with the company's operations suggest the actual user base may be significantly smaller. The article went on to detail discrepancies in Chen Analytics' public statements, interview several former employees who described a culture of embellishment, and note that the company had declined to provide documentation supporting its user claims when requested. Natalie read it 3 times over breakfast, each time feeling a fresh surge of satisfaction. The article didn't explicitly accuse Marcus of fraud, that would come later, but it planted seeds of doubt that would grow into full-blown investigation. Her phone rang at 7:15. "Peterson. Have you seen the journal piece?" he asked without preamble. "Reading it now." "Perfect. Marcus's attorneys will spend today in damage control mode, which means they'll be distracted when we file our motion to invalidate the prenuptial agreement. I'm submitting it at 9 a.m., what should I expect? Marcus's attorney will call you directly, probably sometime this afternoon. He'll try to intimidate you, suggest that fighting the prenup is futile, maybe offer a slightly better settlement to make you go away. Do not engage. Refer him to me for all communication. What about Marcus? Will he call?" Peterson's voice hardened. "If he contacts you directly about the divorce or financial matters, that's a violation of protocol once legal counsel is involved. If he calls, document it. If he shows up at the house again, call the police immediately. We want a record of every boundary he crosses." After hanging up, Natalie pulled up social media out of morbid curiosity. The tech industry was already buzzing about the Wall Street Journal article. Marcus's LinkedIn was being flooded with comments, some supportive, many skeptical, a few openly hostile. But it was Sienna's Instagram that caught Natalie's attention. The posts from yesterday, the ones tagging luxury stores and gushing about her amazing boyfriend, were gone. Deleted. In their place was a single new post, a scenic photo of Central Park with the caption taking time to focus on what matters. #selfcare #gratitude. No mention of Marcus. No couple photos. Nothing. Natalie smiled. Sienna could sense the ship was sinking, and rats always fled first. At 9:47 a.m., Natalie's phone rang. Unknown number, Manhattan area code. She let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. Mrs. Chen, this is Mitchell Stevens, your husband's attorney. I've just been served with a rather surprising motion regarding your prenuptial agreement. I'd like to speak with you directly about this matter, as I believe there may be some misunderstandings that we can clear up without unnecessary legal expenses. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. His tone was condescending, dismissive, exactly what Peterson had predicted. Natalie forwarded the voicemail to Peterson with a text, "He sounds nervous." Peterson's response, "He should be. The prenup is garbage and he knows it. Let him sweat." The morning passed slowly. Natalie tried to focus on work. She'd been reading through Chen Holdings' materials, learning about her grandmother's business strategies, preparing for the Hong Kong board meeting. But her mind kept drifting to Marcus, imagining his panic as his carefully constructed world began to crumble. At 11:30, her doorbell rang. Through the window, Natalie saw a delivery truck and a man carrying an enormous bouquet of white roses. She opened the door cautiously. Delivery for Natalie Chen? The arrangement was stunning, at least 100 roses in a crystal vase that probably cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. The card read, "I'm sorry for everything. Can we talk? Please." Natalie stared at the flowers, feeling absolutely nothing. Marcus thought he could buy her forgiveness with expensive flowers. He thought she was still the woman who could be swayed by romantic gestures and empty apologies. "I don't accept this delivery," she told the driver. "Ma'am? I don't want them. Return them to the sender." The driver looked uncomfortable. "I've never had anyone refuse flowers before." "Well, now you have. Please take them back." After he left, Natalie texted Peterson, "Marcus just sent me flowers. Refused delivery. Excellent. Shows he's trying to contact you outside proper legal channels. I'm adding it to our documentation of his behavior." At 2:15 p.m., Marcus called directly. Natalie let it go to voicemail. "Natalie, come on. This is getting ridiculous. You're challenging the prenup? Do you have any idea how much money you're about to waste on lawyers? That prenup was drafted by the best family law attorneys in New York. It's airtight. You're going to spend months fighting this and lose, and you'll have nothing to show for it except legal bills you can't afford. Just call me back. Let's be adults about this. For our daughter's sake. For our daughter's sake." The manipulation was so transparent it was almost laughable. Natalie saved the voicemail and forwarded it to Peterson. His response, "He's scared." Good. At 4:30, the second shoe dropped. Miranda Chase published a follow-up piece on the Wall Street Journal website. SEC opens investigation into Chen Analytics financial disclosures following yesterday's report on Chen Analytics' questionable user growth claims. Sources confirm that the Securities and Exchange Commission has opened a preliminary investigation into the company's representations to investors. The probe will focus on whether Chen Analytics materially misrepresented its financial performance and user metrics in connection with its recent $15 million funding round. Natalie's phone exploded with notifications. The story was being picked up by TechCrunch, Bloomberg, The Information, every major tech publication. Marcus's name was trending on Twitter, and not in a good way. She pulled up his LinkedIn profile. The comments section was brutal. "Always thought his growth numbers seemed too good to be true. My company tried Chen Analytics for 3 months. The product was mediocre at best. No way they have 2 million users. SEC investigation before Series C? That company is dead in the water." At 5:17, Marcus called again. This time Natalie answered, putting him on speaker so she could record the conversation. "You did this." His voice was tight with rage. "You fucking did this, didn't you?" "Did what, Marcus?" "The Wall Street Journal article. The SEC investigation. This is all you. You're trying to destroy my company because you're bitter about the divorce." "I didn't do anything, Marcus. If you're being investigated, maybe it's because you actually committed fraud." "I didn't commit fraud. Those user numbers are legitimate." Then you have nothing to worry about. The SEC will investigate and clear you. Do you have any idea what you've done? His voice was climbing toward hysteria. My investors are panicking. 2 of them called emergency meetings. I might have to return the Series B funding. The company could fold, Natalie. Our daughter's future is fine. She has a trust fund worth more than your entire company. Silence. Natalie could practically hear Marcus's mind working, trying to figure out what she meant. What trust fund? The one my grandmother left her. The grandmother you never bothered to ask about because you assumed I had no family worth knowing. Your grandmother? The one who died years ago. She was a bookkeeper or something. She was a real estate developer who built a $2.4 billion empire. And she left all of it to me. The silence that followed was profound. Natalie let it stretch, enjoying Marcus's confusion, his dawning realization that he'd made a catastrophic miscalculation. You're lying, he said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. Check the New York Times business section from 6 weeks ago. There's an obituary for Lin Chen, founder of Chen Holdings. Look at the family survivors. You'll see my name. She hung up before he could respond. 30 seconds later, her phone rang again. She ignored it. Then again. And again. Marcus called 17 times in the next hour, each call going to voicemail, each message more desperate than the last. At 6:45, a different call came through. Sienna. Natalie almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Natalie? Sienna's voice was uncharacteristically hesitant. I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I need to ask you something. What, Sienna? Is it true? About your grandmother? Marcus is losing his mind. He's been on the phone with his attorney for an hour, and I heard him say something about billions of dollars. It's true. But you worked at a museum. You drove a Honda. You wore clothes from Target. Because I chose to. Because I wanted to know if Marcus loved me for myself, not for my family's money. Natalie's voice was cold. Turns out he didn't love me at all. He just loved the idea of me as his supportive wife who didn't outshine him. Natalie, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I mean, Marcus said you were just a housewife with no money, no family, no prospects. He said you'd be fine, that you were manipulating him by getting pregnant. Stop. Natalie's voice cut like a blade. I don't care what Marcus told you. You saw me having a seizure on my kitchen floor, and you called me pathetic. You spat in my face while I was pregnant. You laughed while my husband abandoned me during a medical emergency. I don't give a damn about your apologies or your excuses. I know I was awful. But Marcus was just so convincing. He made it seem like you were the villain, like he was escaping this terrible marriage, and you believed him because you wanted to believe him. Because it justified what you were doing. Natalie felt her baby kick, hard, responding to her elevated heart rate. Sienna, you're 26 years old. You're beautiful and ambitious and you could have had any man in New York. Why did you choose mine? Because he was successful. Because he seemed like he had it all figured out. Because I thought, Sienna's voice broke. I thought if I could land a millionaire, I'd finally feel secure. I grew up poor, Natalie. Really poor. Marcus represented everything I'd been fighting for my whole life. Then you should have fought for it honestly instead of stealing another woman's husband while she was pregnant. You're right. You're completely right. Sienna was crying now. Can I ask you something? Are you really going to destroy Marcus? Because if you are, I need to know. The penthouse deal, the furniture, everything, it's all falling apart. If his company goes under, I'm going to be left with nothing. Natalie almost laughed at the audacity. That's not my problem, Sienna. You made your choices. Now live with them. But what if he goes to prison? What if the SEC investigation, then you'll have achieved your goal of landing a millionaire. He just won't be one anymore. Natalie hung up. For several minutes, she sat in the quiet of her house, feeling her daughter move inside her. Outside, the sun was setting over Westchester County, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Did you see Sienna's calling everyone she knows trying to figure out your net worth? She's terrified. Good. Also, rumor mill says 3 of Marcus's investors are demanding their money back. The Series B round might collapse. Even better. You're kind of scary when you're vindictive, you know that? I prefer the term strategic. At 8:30, Detective Reeves called. Mrs. Chen, I wanted to give you a heads up. Your husband filed a complaint claiming you're harassing him with false allegations to damage his business reputation. Natalie's blood went cold. That's insane. He's the one who keeps calling me. He sent flowers. He's violated, I know. I've reviewed the phone records and the documentation your attorney provided. Mr. Chen's complaint is, frankly, ridiculous. But I wanted you to be aware that he's attempting to paint himself as the victim here. What should I do? Keep documenting everything. Don't engage with him directly. Let your attorney handle all communication. And Mrs. Chen? Reeves' voice softened. How are you feeling? Your neighbor mentioned you seemed unwell yesterday. I'm okay. Just stressed. My doctor has me on modified bed rest. Good. Take care of yourself and that baby. Let us handle Marcus. After hanging up, Natalie realized her hands were shaking. She checked her blood pressure with the home monitor Dr. Morrison had insisted she use, 145/92. Too high. She called the after-hours line for Dr. Morrison's office. Mrs. Chen? The nurse who answered sounded immediately concerned. What's going on? My blood pressure is elevated. 145/92. I've been stressed, my husband has been calling repeatedly, there's been some conflict, Dr. Morrison wants to see you first thing tomorrow morning. Can you come in at 8 a.m.? Yes. In the meantime, drink water, rest, and try to avoid whatever's stressing you out. If you feel dizzy, have vision changes, or severe headaches, go to the ER immediately. We're not taking chances with preeclampsia. After the call, Natalie forced herself to lie down in the master bedroom, though everything in her wanted to keep refreshing news sites, checking Marcus's social media, watching his world burn in real time. Her phone buzzed. Marcus again, but this time a text instead of a call. I know what you're trying to do. But you're making a mistake. I built Chen Analytics from nothing. I have allies, resources, lawyers who will fight this. You think some Wall Street Journal article is going to bring me down? You think the SEC investigation matters? I've been through worse. And when this is over, when I prove that every accusation is bullshit, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of vindictive person you really are. You're going to regret declaring war on me. Natalie read the message twice, then forwarded it to Peterson with a note. He just threatened me via text. Does this help our case? Peterson's response came immediately. It helps immensely. He's establishing a pattern of harassment and intimidation. Save everything. This man is self-destructing in real time. At 10:30 p.m., just as Natalie was finally drifting off to sleep, her phone rang. Patricia Holloway, her neighbor. Natalie, dear, I'm so sorry to call so late, but Marcus is in your driveway. Natalie bolted upright, her heart racing. What? He's been sitting in his car for 20 minutes. I watched him pulling around 10, and he's just been sitting there, staring at the house. I thought you should know. I'm calling the police. I already did. They're on their way. I just wanted to make sure you knew he was there, in case he tries to get inside. Natalie moved to the window and peeked through the curtains. Sure enough, Marcus's Tesla was in the driveway, its interior lights off, just a dark shape that radiated menace. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you so much. Of course, dear. I'll keep watch until the police arrive. 5 minutes later, blue and red lights illuminated the quiet street. 2 officers approached Marcus's car, spoke to him briefly, then escorted him away from the property. Through the window, Natalie could see Marcus gesturing angrily, but he got back in his car and drove away. One of the officers came to her door. "Mrs. Chen? I'm Officer Rodriguez. Your neighbor called about your estranged husband lingering on the property. We've asked him to leave, and I've documented the incident. Given your previous reports and the ongoing divorce proceedings, I'd recommend filing for a restraining order. My attorney mentioned that. I'll call him tomorrow." "Good. In the meantime, we've told Mr. Chen that any further contact, physical presence, phone calls, texts, anything, will result in arrest for harassment." He seemed to understand. After the police left, Natalie sat in her darkened living room, watching the street for any sign of Marcus's return. Her blood pressure monitor showed 152/95, dangerously high. She thought about calling Dr. Morrison's emergency line again, but what could they do except tell her to reduce stress? And how could she reduce stress when her husband was stalking her, when his company was imploding, when everything she'd set in motion was accelerating toward an inevitable collision? At midnight, her phone lit up with a final message from Marcus. "This isn't over, Natalie. Not even close." But what Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that Natalie had just authorized Peterson to release the audio recording to the media. The recording of Marcus laughing while his pregnant wife seized on the kitchen floor, dismissing her medical emergency, planning his new life with his mistress while she lay helpless and terrified. Tomorrow morning, the world would hear exactly what kind of man Marcus Chen really was. And by tomorrow afternoon, he wouldn't have a company, a reputation, or a future left to fight for. Natalie placed her hand on her belly, feeling Lynn kick softly. "It's almost over, baby girl," she whispered. "Just a little longer, and Daddy will finally understand what he lost when he threw us away." In the darkness of her living room, Natalie Chen smiled. Not with happiness, but with the cold satisfaction of justice, finally, within reach. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.